Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or good evening for those of you on the continental United States. Aloha, it is your host, BullMuscle. I've got a great show for you tonight. This one, for those of you who are into the finances and stock side of my streams and my content, you're going to have a good time tonight. So, let's see what we got. Oh, all right, we got California Hiei. Good to see you in here as always. Happy Friday to you. Working Man's Weekend. Big Red Fro, welcome on in. Thanks for the first redeem. Evening for the record one. Don't know how UK won versus Ole Miss. Did they? Good for the Wildcats. It seems like they struggled out of the gate, but maybe they're finding their footing a bit later. And Tito Francona. Well, the Reds definitely needed a change. So, we'll see what happens at this point. I think the talent is there for Cincinnati. It's just they've got to have the right manager to put the pieces together. Don't know if it'll be Mr. Francona. We'll find out. But, so I have a fantastic... Let me grab my notebook. There it is. I have a fantastic little something to talk about with y'all tonight. This one, okay. We've got, I need to shave. I'm going to probably do that before tomorrow morning, but that's later time. Happy Friday. Good to see you hold a rocket. That was accidental. Genuinely was looking for my notebook because it's important to have things like this, especially for consultations, which for those of you who don't know, if you haven't heard, askbullmuscle@gmail.com for consultations, be they fitness, financial, if you're looking for a tailored diet plan for you, if you're looking at just general advice, or if you're looking for a swift foot up the ass, because I can provide all of those. Anywho, okay, so for those of you who don't know about the FIRE movement, let's start there. FIRE movement is an acronym that stands for Financially Independent, Retire Early, okay? It is generally, but not always, a group of people who are attempting to become financially independent. That is, they do not need to work for a living. Work becomes optional. In other words, they're free. That's the word I would use. They have earned their freedom. And a lot of people would associate that with retirement, though many people in this situation decide that they find something that they like doing that just happens to produce income on the side. To me, I would still call that retired, but you get people who like to quibble about those definitions. I have no time or interest for that. But where I'm going with this is there are several different branches of the FIRE movement. The OG one, and to me the whole best idea, was lean FIRE. That is, getting to that point of financial independence. There are really only two ways you can work financial independence. The first is drastically increasing your income to the point where you can save and invest enough to support your lifestyle. Or the second, and in my opinion, the much better one because you can control this, is managing your expenses, okay? Managing your expenses and decreasing what you have to consume is lean FIRE. And historically and traditionally, that is the heart of the FIRE movement, okay? The lean FIRE movement in particular was pioneered by First Your Money or Your Life. That's Joe Dominguez and Vicki Robin. Fantastic book, strongly recommend it. In fact, I have a list of what I would call pinned books that are not mandatory but extraordinarily helpful financial founts of knowledge that would give you a incredibly strong basic literacy for your entire life. It would be, to read them all would require a handful, probably a dozen or 24 hours, but it would be very well worth the time you spent, especially if you really understood it. After Vicki Robin, Joe Dominguez released that was 1992. Fast forward to 2008, Jacob Lund Fisker starts his blog, Early Retirement Extreme, releases his book in early 2010, I believe. But at the depths of the 2008-2009 recession, proving that you could live for far, far lower than the rest. Then you get the dawn of the internet FIRE bloggers, Mr. Money Mustache probably being the most predominant for the lean FIRE movement, though less extreme than Jacob Fisker, and for the FatFIRE movement, which is the people who advocate not changing your consumption habits at all, spending whatever you'd like to spend and just working really, really hard and joining the top 0.01%. To me, that's just getting rich. It's not really FIRE. That's just getting rich and siphoning off just enough to build up an income. But they were led by Sam Dogan of the Financial Samurai. So Mr. Dogan is, by all means, extraordinarily successful in his career. However, he has not been successful in his retirement. This is per his own words. He ended up having to go back to work because he was incapable of... There are a confluence of factors, but basically what it boiled down to was he had locked himself into an extremely high-spending lifestyle. First, actually, right here in wonderful Honolulu, Hawaii, and then in the city of San Francisco. And he's talked about this. And San Francisco is about the single most expensive place on earth. And not to get overly political, but fully the biggest reason why San Francisco is expensive is entirely self-inflicted. Yes, there has been high amounts of demand, but San Francisco's dramatic cost of living increases is almost solely due to the fact that the city has prevented itself from building any new housing. What little housing has been built has mostly been built outside of the city in San Francisco, in sister cities or suburbs like Oakland and Emeryville. So, regardless, Mr. Dogan also insisted that his kids all go to private school and get tutoring and all the other trappings of what you, I, and most normal people would call rich people bullshit. The idea that a private school is necessary for your child to get a top-tier education is fundamentally untrue, and in some ways, it shields them from the realities of the world in a way that public school won't. Now, public school has its problems, but one of the good things about public school is that you will meet socially maladjusted people. You will meet assholes. You will meet people who very clearly are going to have a hard life out of high school. You're going to meet people who have problems at home. You're going to meet teachers who don't give a fuck. You're going to meet obstacles and hindrances to your own success. And the mark of a kid that can survive all that and thrive, you can thrive in any public school, is almost entirely down to the parenting. If the parents give a shit, the kids will thrive. If the parents don't give a shit, and they're not spending time with their child, then the kid will turn out to be a burnout. And the amount of money you make as a parent is irrelevant. It is almost solely down to how much time you spend with your child. And this is one where God help me, I sound like a fucking right-wing nut, but I strongly believe that if you are going to have children, first off, don't have children you can't afford. For the love of Christ, don't do that. It's not fair to the child, and it's not fair to yourselves. But if you are having children, have a long and productive discussion with your spouse, be they male, female, or other, and one of you should stay at home. Yes, you should be, if you are a family, you should do whatever the hell it takes to be a one-income family, at least until your child gets to public school. I strongly believe that. For those 5 years between birth and going to kindergarten, I am strongly in favor of this being one parent, their duty is to raise the child. Those early years are crucial, and they need the love and support of a parent. Frankly, I think even after you are able to go to public school, because really the first few grades are mostly publicly subsidized daycare centers. Let's not kid ourselves. You start really actually reading, getting into important matters, reading, writing, and arithmetic, somewhere around grades 2 to 5. And to be honest, most children are intelligent enough to learn it, especially if their mother is at home or father is at home. Non-binary people, tell me what your equivalent to the word mother or father is. That one I would actually be kind of curious to hear. If we're going this if we're going this multi-gender route, I'm going to stick with mother and father. Same way I'm going to stick with sir and ma'am. Non-binary people, you have some work to do on that one. Just straight up. Like, I ain't got no hate against you, but I'm a southerner, okay? You got to give me an alternative to sir or ma'am. That's just, if you want me to respect you, you got to respect my culture, all right? Anyway, I went to public school quite often. Hey, JJ, thank you very much for the 100 biddies. I do appreciate that. But it looks like the bot's not working again. That bot has been unreliable. But anyway, I strongly do believe that you have to have one parent at home raising the child and keeping the family and, maintaining the household. Right? When you have a child, you have made the decision to bring life into this earth, and you need to take that seriously. You are no longer the focal point in your own life. Your child is. My parents, God bless them, treated me this way, and it was very clear that they treated me this way. And you know what? I'm really fucking successful and I have the way I was raised is a big part of that to thank. Anyway, Mr. Dogan and the FIRE people think it's very important to put your kids into the hoity-toity schools, and you've got to have the house in the right district, which means you're living in Atherton, California, which is the most retardedly expensive piece of land in the entire world, basically. And really the entire San Francisco Bay Area at large. But I'm going to talk with their bank because apparently they're like a partner for Vanguard here. Good. Vanguard is very strongly recommended. But anyway, his whole point was that you should not retire until you become truly wealthy, like able to, to where $250,000 a year is nothing to you. And first off, just from an environmental perspective, the Earth is not capable of supporting all of us if we were making that kind of money. There are not enough resources to do that. So, no on that one. That's mathematically impossible. Second off, there just aren't enough positions that warrant or command that kind of salary. So, statistically speaking, that advice is completely useless for the vast majority of us. Third, those who will make that kind of money almost always, statistically speaking, not make it until their 50s. So at that point, you've either decided not to have a family at all, or you've already raised the family. Pyro Hater, sure, give me a sec. I'm going to finish this. But where I'm going with this is it's much, much easier. This is the Pareto principle, right? So what is the Pareto principle about? The Pareto principle is the idea that you get diminishing marginal returns as you head towards 100% on anything, right? As you head towards 100% effort, you will not, it's like 20% of the effort gets you 80% of the work, but 100% of the effort will get you 100% of the work, right? It's that diminishing marginal returns. And it's the same thing with getting more salary, right? You'll have to work harder than all your other coworkers and peers. You'll have to brown nose. You have to kiss ass if you're working corporate. And you're going to have to put in more hours than anybody else. And all of a sudden, now you're talking about working 70 or 80-hour weeks. Well, you can do that through your 20s, but you're not going to have much of a fun outside life. Probably going to neglect your health. Your friendships will suffer because you don't have time for them outside of work. Your relationship with a woman's not going to be good. And I'm sorry about being heteronormative. This is just me being a man. But women generally like to have time spent with them, and men do too. But if you're doing that and you're going for that high-fired career lifestyle, you're not going to have very much time for your family. And God knows, there are so many rich kids that get screwed up because they had all the money in the world, but they never had the thing that you can't fucking replace, and that is parental time, attention, and love. You need that. But Mr. Dogan recently wrote an article which is about admitting that retiring early is obviously better than retiring rich. And the dirty little secret that he doesn't want to admit is that the only way to really do that for the vast majority of us is by cutting your consumption. Because mathematically speaking, you're not going to become that rich, okay? The vast majority of us are never going to see 7-figure salaries. Hell, the vast majority of us in here are never going to see 6-figure salaries unless inflation really gets out of hand. I'm very fortunate. I've worked really hard. But I'm the exception. I'm probably close to that 99th percentile man. Not to be, again, arrogant or immodest, but I'm at that point. And I'm just barely at six figures. The amount of men, right, and this is a good little dating analysis for anybody. The amount of men over 6 feet tall, 14%. The amount of men making over six figures, under 10%. The amount of men in their 20s and 30s making over six figures, under 5%. The amount of men under age 30 making six figures, under 2%. Those are just the raw numbers. You can kick your feet and throw a hissy fit and scream and yell to the heavens that it's unfair, but that's just reality. So with that being in mind, you can't control beyond a certain threshold how much money you make. You can try your best, but that effort is much better used controlling your spending. And when you get your spending down, first off, you realize you don't have to sacrifice very much. I live like a king in the most expensive state in the union, and I spend less than $40,000 a year. Haven't lived here long enough to give you an entire yearly figure, but right now it's trending towards about anywhere between 30 and 40,000. If I had to give you an exact number, I would guess 36. And I live in a very nice apartment. I don't share it with anyone. This is a large one-bedroom apartment. If I wanted cheaper, I could have a studio, but I want, I want the pool and I want the gym, which, I use to make content for y'all. Man, I would love to make Bill Gates lotto money. The truth is, beyond a certain amount of money, beyond a certain amount of wealth, Bill Gates is not really any more wealthy, or that money is of no more use to Bill Gates intrinsically than it is to you or I. I would say that point is roughly about, if you're single, $600,000 net worth invested. If you're a family, $1 to $1.5 million. That is enough income to where if you are conservatively withdrawing and invested properly at 3 to 4% safe withdrawal rate, you have enough to live a very comfortable, very luxurious life, and you never have to worry about working another day in your life again. Now, for a single man especially, you don't need more than about $20,000 to $25,000 a year, and that's if you want to live like a king. If you want to really scrape by, $15,000 will do it. But what the money does buy is power. And if you want power, then yes, the money is valuable. Bill Gates uses his money primarily, not entirely, but primarily to help victims of malaria in Africa. I think it's an incredibly honorable thing that he does. So, with that perspective in mind, it's definitely, there are reasons to continue working past your point of financial independence. You may enjoy the work you do, in which case you're very lucky. You may find purpose in the work you do. You may want to start a business. There's all sorts of things you can do. Excuse me for just 1 second. I need to update. I weighed in right before the broadcast. There we go. Nice. But there's all sorts of things you can do with the money. The key is that you don't. You have to have an end, right? When you get to the point where you're making money because it's a game to you and the only thing that matters is making more money, then you get to the point where, and I'll actually quote Dogan's article here, paraphrase it loosely, you're spending 40 years of your life developing an app that causes brain rot in the younger generations. TikTok, Instagram, Meta. But, where Dogan's going, though, Dogan is finally coming around to the realization that I'll go ahead and I'll read a little bit of the article to explain. The Financial Samurai is saying he retired originally at 34, and then came back to unretire at 44. Now he's 47, and he says, I can say without hesitation, I wouldn't trade the time and freedom I've had for extra wealth, not even close. And the real question comes down to, the extra money to retire rich isn't necessarily worth it. How many more years does it have to be? How many more years do you want to put in doing something you hate or even just tolerate without actually spending the time to figure out your passion, figure out what God put you on this earth for. Do you want to have regrets through your 30s and 40s? Right? To me, it doesn't make any sense. So for that reason, I would say, welcome to the club. Now, I wish you'd put it together, Mr. Dogan, and realize that the true key to happiness is not related to material wealth. And if you spent a little bit more time living the realities of the average person, or even the above average person, you quickly come to realize that your $250,000 or $300,000 a year budget that is the reason you keep working is completely unnecessary. And if you cut a few basics, let your kids go to public school, ditch one of the expensive Range Rovers you have, all the other materialistic bullshit you don't really need, and just live slightly more minimalistically, not even anything remotely coming close to what I do or what any of the Lean Fire people do, but just take a tiny dose of that Lean Fire medicine and it would clear all your problems up very quickly. Anyway, traditionally though, I have found the Financial Samurai to be something of a joke, because there are some people that think you really can't retire until you have like $10 million or some ridiculous amount of money, and it's like, that's not accurate at all. Now, whether or not you should is a different question, but financial freedom, to earn your financial freedom, I personally, this is my opinion, I think you are there if you can successfully live on, to me, I think any man, if you're just a single man, you should be able to live on $20,000 a year or less. Frankly, $20,000 is very, very generous. But $20,000 or less, I like to be a bit more conservative, because this is, you're retiring early or financially independent early. This is not to say you never work again in your life, but instead of using the 4% rule, I like to use a 3.3% rule. So what that means is you multiply by 30. So for a man, $600,000, you're financially independent. Now, if you choose to live in, the most expensive place in the world, are you going to need more money before you're financially independent? Or are you going to need to work side hustles to bridge the gap? Yeah, but that's a choice. You don't have to stay living in San Francisco or Honolulu or New York City or London or wherever the fuck else. That's a choice you can make. If I wish to retire tomorrow and never work another day in my life, I could return to South Carolina and do just that. I have the money. But I enjoy being out here. I don't hate my job. And there's a lot of really interesting opportunities, particularly with modeling, that make a good enough argument for me to continue to work a couple extra years. Not to mention, if you want to, as we were talking about, Bill Gates style, you want to be someone who donates a lot to charity. You want to be someone who maybe starts a scholarship fund or wants to give money to your friends without a second thought in the world or whatever, then yeah, you need to work a little bit longer to make that happen. For a family, I personally believe, right, if you are a single person that can live on $20,000, then as a couple, you should be able to live on $30,000, because, right, economies of scale, you can share, if you're a couple, you can share a one-bedroom apartment, if you don't have any kids anyway, you share a one-bedroom apartment, so that slices half of the rental expenses you need. You can share one car where the other person can use public transit or can walk. Ideally, you're at least living close to where one of you is employed. Now, family, I think the first kid always costs the most, but I would say $40,000. Very doable on $40,000. So that's going to be $600,000 to be FI, $900,000 to be FI, $1.2 million to be FI. And frankly, $40,000, very easy to do with a family of 3 anyway. Family of 4, I'd say maybe $45,000. Family of 5, $50,000. Okay, so that's going to be $600,000, $900,000, $1.2 million, $1.35 million, and $1.5 million. And now, $1.5 million is a lot of money. But first off, 3 children is optional. One child is optional, but 3 is very much optional. If you want to have a large family, well, yeah, it's going to take more resources to support it. But the good news is, children, if you're frugal, you get diminishing margins or diminishing returns or economies of scale. It'll cost less per child. But, to get 1.5 million, though, the nice thing is, I'm so tired of these Twitch bots. I'm going to switch to YouTube. I'm getting pretty fed up with Twitch, honestly. But where I'm going with this was 1.5 million. If you've got 2 people working hard, first off, if you work in the trades, first off, don't have kids before you're 25. You're just making it harder on yourself. Second off, if you're looking to have kids, you should be ideally married. If not married, stick it to the man. Have a very stout relationship that's going to be able to handle the ups and downs of life. But, you should both be working until the first child comes along. So you should be able to save quite a lot. Now, let's say you're both, one of you's an engineer, one of you's, a nurse. If you're doing that, you're probably both combined making at least 100K, probably more. And if you're living together, you're living on 30K. That means you should be saving $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year before the first child comes along. Now, if you get married at 25, which I know is a little early, or, if you're the guy, maybe you date a little bit younger, you marry the girl right out of nursing school or whatever, all of a sudden, you're the guy. If you've been living $20,000 a year, you've been saving. You probably have somewhere between $100,000 and $500,000 saved up minimum. Maybe you even have a house. And then if she's got a nurse's salary, she's doing that for a few years. All of a sudden, you've got a few really high income years before she starts getting closer to 30. At which point, then you have the kids. You're maybe not quite at $1 million, but you're damn close. And at that point, you can wind it down to one salary and let the rest compound, and by the time you're in your 40s, you could retire. Mid-40s, perhaps, if you've done it properly. Because, in general, S&P 500 gets you about a 7% real return, 10% nominal return. That means it's going to double about every 10 years. So if you have your first child at 30, and you've saved $750,000 up. Now, that's not easy. But if you're a couple, it's a lot easier. $750,000 up. Well, all you got to do is, you don't have to save another penny beyond that point, and you could retire at 40, right? Maybe let's go 500,000. Let's just say you want to go 15 years. So, you can retire while your kid's a sophomore in high school, right? So, you need to have, and you want to have 3 kids, right? You need to have, before, if you don't want to save another penny after you raise your family, you go to one income, and that's your pretty much paycheck to paycheck. You need to have about $550,000 saved up at 30 to be able to retire at 45. That's it. Now, $550,000 for a 2-child family, or a couple, that's very doable. That is. It is. $545,000 is very doable. Right, a nurse's salary, nurse, you're going to be making probably not $100,000, but maybe it's only for a couple of years, but you're making enough, certainly enough to pay off all your debts, and then probably plenty to save, right? And if you're making money, you're an engineer, or you're, an accountant, you're a data scientist, you know what degrees get you actual money, or you're in the trades, in which case you've been working since you were 18, not 22. And as a result, you're already doing well. By the time you hit 30 and you're in the trades, you should be looking to start your own business or go out on your own. And if you are even remotely competent, you'll make $100,000 a year, at which point you can certainly support your family. And that's ignoring the fact that if you're making another fucking bot, man, if you're making $100,000 a year, and your family, as you should, be living on 40, 45, 50, you're still saving a good 25 to 30% of your income minimum, which means you could retire well before 45 in this case. And again, this is a one-income household. Does it take sacrifice to live on $40,000 to $50,000 a year with children? Yes. They're not going to private school. They might have to have, thrift store clothes. You might not be going out to eat very often. Newsflash. In the good old days, quote unquote, the 50s and the 60s, that's what every family did. That's normal. It's okay. Anyway, so the point here I'm making is another fucking ban. There we go. Keep getting bots. The point here is very simple. Frugality is going to beat working harder in the office. Almost every time. I would say beyond about a $60,000 a year salary. If you're making less than $60K, yeah, keep looking at career improvements to try and track up your income. But once you're at about the $60K point, yeah, now you start looking at frugality. I mean, obviously, if you're not making very much money, you should be frugal to begin with. But that's where the savings aspect comes in, is at about the $60K mark. Looks like it's raining out. Huh. Well, I'm glad I decided to stream instead of hike. Anyway, so let's look at the chats. Can you recall an insanely hilarious story from your middle years? Yeah, I can think of one. This was in 8th grade. Me and a couple other kids. There was we were playing dodgeball, and I guess the 4 of us had gotten out. I love dodgeball, but the coach the PE teacher wanted to do something really stupid, and he was trying to stand up on this chair, and when his back was turned, my friend sprinted out there, took the chair, and just hit it in the hallway right next to the gym. And he was looking around, like he was looking the other way, didn't notice at all, and he got away with it. And we all just busted out laughing behind him, and eventually he figured out, he's like, oh, I see what you did. That was pretty funny. Ricka Butter 84, am I naked? The fuck do you think? This is Twitch, it's not Pornhub. Get your mind out of the gutter. I do wear white shorts because they're comfortable. And because I can't be bothered. Actually, to be honest, at this point, these are the only clean shorts I have left. I need to do laundry. But it's raining out, so fuck that. So hopefully that's pretty. That was. I remember. It sounds so stupid now, but God, it was. I laughed so hard I was crying. I was about to crash out. Well, I appreciate the first time chat. Welcome on in. For those of you who are new to my channel, I'm BullMuscle. I do fitness streams primarily, but I also do advice streams, and generally speaking, I do consultations as well. So if you're okay, I'm gonna back up a little bit so you can see what I look like standing up, because I think some of you who are new to my channel might not necessarily see. Okay, right? This here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. I'm a model as a side hobby. I'm a successful nuclear engineer. I am, by all intents and purposes, succeeding incredibly in basically every aspect of my life at age 29. So I know a thing or two. Now, I would be the first to admit that anyone who's still in their 20s still has a lot to learn, myself included. But let's not kid ourselves. There's also a lot I could teach as well. And it's going to be a little bit easier hearing it from me than it is hearing it from some boomer or Gen Xer who never had to go through, the pandemic, or never had to go through all the trials and tribulations that, we younger generations have had to go to. It's not to discount their advice, but it may be easier hearing it from me, and I may be able to give you insight from a perspective you haven't heard before. So if you're interested in that, you can ask for a consultation or write me at askbullmuscle@gmail.com. I'm going to go ahead and write that in here because the bot has decided to pack it in. But, okay, I have a question. Can you say in a big black man's voice, is that supposed to be plug? Is that a typo? Pluh? Is that pla? Is that plu? Is it supposed to be plug? Okay, sure. I can try. If I get canceled for this, I'm gonna kind of blame you, but Pluh. I don't know, man. Do I look like James Earl Jones to you? Or Barry White? I'm quite I'm quite clearly quite white. If I don't know why you're asking me to do an impression of a black man's voice. I mean, I've hung out with plenty of black people. I used to live in the Deep South. You find them there. South Carolina. I don't know what PLUH means either. Whatever. If that's code or slang for something, I can't be bothered to look it up or care. Go ahead, cancel me. Oh wait, I don't have any other social media. No, yeah, I get you. Request permission to eat this guy? Nah, he's fine. That's fine. It's interesting. Someone new. But it's all good for now, Big Red. All right, so that was more or less all I had to talk about. Talk about financial independence. Talk about being fucking sane with your money, not wasting it on worthless bullshit. What'd you say when there's nothing left to say, or you don't know what to say, or you're simply not interested in the conversation anymore? Okay. Good to know. Thank you, FM. Did a bad finger. Yeah, I'll do it again. Okay, you might not have noticed the lack of ads on this channel. That's because I run the minimum deliberately. I have no interest in making money off of this. That's not why I stream. I stream because I enjoy it. Yeah, and I'm more or less already financially independent. At this point, the timer down here is more or less just a formality. I don't know why, actually. I updated it, but Stream Elements has just been acting super goofy recently. It's part of why I'm going to probably switch from Twitch to YouTube pretty soon, but that's a different conversation. There's something else I was going to say. Forget what it was. Okay. Talk about the future a little bit. Oh, now you're deciding to work, Stream Elements bot. My homeboy Lab Boys TV is coming out here for the upcoming week. He will arrive on Tuesday. You might see him for lifting streams. You might see him for consultation streams. It really depends. I've had a bunch of people. This is frustrating. You email me for a consultation, and then I ask for some follow-up questions to give better advice, and then silence. What the hell? What are y'all doing? Why would you do that? Well, what you've done is waste your time and then waste mine. Be fucking polite. Don't do that. Ask me for advice and then follow up when I try to get more information. Right? I don't know. You're asking me this, well, I want to get jacked. How do I do that? Okay. Can I ask where you're starting from? Can I ask what age you are? Can I ask how much time do you have for the gym? Think about those things, because if you want generic advice, another pack bounce. Okay. If you want generic advice, sure, I can give you that. Okay. Do you want to get jacked? I'll just tell you right now. Lift lots of weights, eat healthy foods, and work really, really hard, and then you'll get jacked. Now, you might notice that advice is not helpful. Why? Because it's not really tailored to you, because I don't know your situation. So when you're writing to me for a consultation, give me some details. Now, don't just spurg out, okay, and write them in one giant wall of text. Give me some paragraphs. Ooh, FM Mariani Colon. Now that's a fantastic question. I actually made a political compass about the differences on I wrote it on paper. I never actually made it and posted it to Reddit. Yeah, Stream Elements is working now. What is with this bot? But one of the differences, similarities and differences, do you find in South Carolinians compared to Hawaiians and Hawaiian residents? Okay, first off, I appreciate the differentiation between Hawaiians and Hawaiian residents because I am not a Hawaiian. Hawaiian is an ethnicity. The people around here definitely appreciate when people know the difference. But similarities and differences. Similarities, both are obsessed with their cars. Now, I live on Oahu, and Oahu is different from the other Hawaiian islands because it is much more urban. But Hawaiian pizza is trash, and it wasn't even invented here. It was invented by Canadians. And what's even more insulting is that the pineapple isn't even native to Hawaii. It's just grown here. I will grant they're the best pineapples I've ever eaten, but they were imported. The pineapple is originally from South America, I believe. But similarities, addiction to cars, that's the biggest one. Now, out here, it's a lot less acceptable because all the oil has to be imported, and the traffic is horrendous, and the weather, South Carolina weather is good most of the year, but the weather here is perfect all year round. There's no excuse for that. And the HDOT, the Department of Transportation here, especially on this island, should be ashamed of itself for prioritizing the car and basically treating cyclists especially, but also pedestrians, like scum. That one is mind-blowing to me. Again, especially in the city of Honolulu. This is the largest city for a radius of like 3,000 miles. So it's mind-blowing to me that everything is so car-centric. It just doesn't make sense. The bus system is very good here, I will admit. It will take you everywhere on this island. The problem is that it gets stuck in the same traffic that all the cars do. Honolulu has some of the worst traffic in the world. It's mind-blowing, honestly. So similarities, addiction to cars is a big one. Financially, that is an addiction to cars. That is one of the biggest This is one of the biggest wealth sinks in the country. Right? I've said time and time again, the three things that keep a man chained to his cubicle for the longest are expensive houses, expensive cars, and expensive women. Similarities, other similarities. Here and in South Carolina, people like the beach in general. It is seen as sort of the free, chill, leisure activity that family can go and do, that teens can go and do. I'm not fully on the fuck cars bandwagon, although as a cyclist here, it gets hard not to be. Cars have their uses, but what bothers me is that people use them indiscriminately. If you can avoid using your car on the trips you don't really need it, say commuting to work, right? If we could reduce car usage by 10 to 20%, traffic would instantly get so much better. Of course, the problem is the second it gets better, everybody hops back in their cars, and then it gets worse again. So you have to, it's a prisoner's dilemma type problem. It's a tragedy of the commons. But, by the way, I hope you enjoyed the peck bounce there. But other similarities between Hawaiians and Hawaiian residents and South Carolinians. I'm not going to specifically address Hawaiians here because while there certainly is a lot more emphasis on the culture, people here, at least on this island, be they Hawaiian, Haole, Filipino, black, whatever, generally all have the same financial outlook. Similarities, I would say there is the penchant for overconsumption, that's an American thing more than anything else. A better public intra-island transit system. Well, how would you do it? I mean, a boat? You could, but that's going to damage the marine life. They've talked about having ferries between Molokai, Lanai, and Maui. So that might come. Really, the only other option is planes. It's boats or planes. Take your pick. Really, And as far as public transit is concerned, Oahu is the only island that needs it because of the density. Maui, the Big Island, Kauai, those are all much lower population density, so it's not as critical. Solution, high gas prices, yes. Oh, actually, I would strongly recommend a fuel tax. People are very price sensitive to gas prices here as well, even though, again, gas prices are lower here than they ought to be, given the cost involved of transporting oil halfway across an ocean. Other similarities. In general, people like houses in both places. Now, the difference is in South Carolina, housing prices are very reasonable. Here, you're paying the paradise tax. So that would be one of the biggest differences. More people are house poor here. And that is a function of... That's just supply and demand. I'm a huge fan of transit-oriented development and urbanism and everything else, but no amount of building housing here would ever decrease housing prices to even the national average, right? This place is just too gorgeous for that. There will just always be demand for housing here. Housing is always going to be expensive. Same thing with food. People probably spend more on food here than on any other state, perhaps barring Alaska. That is a reality of living in the middle of the ocean. It is what it is. Other differences, I would say in general, in terms of income, I think South Carolinians are lazier than Hawaii residents. That's not to be harsh. There is a really nasty stereotype of the lazy Hawaiian or the lazy Hawaii resident. Frankly, it has nothing to do with ethnicity here, but there's a stereotype of people here in the islands being lazy, and it's bullshit. This is an island with more dynamism than any place I've seen outside of maybe parts of the Northeast. And the reason is very simple. The cost of living here is so high that if you can't support yourself, you leave. And because so many people here they are very proud to be from here. And they will do what it takes to survive and scratch out a living out here, no matter how high the costs are. Except for give up their cars, apparently. That, heaven forbid, anybody suggest you bike somewhere to get around. That one, unfortunately, that is a tragic Americanism that it holds true no matter what state you're in. Maui that's a tragic tale. Yeah. Maui that is a combination of factors. The fires, of course, made things very much worse, but celebrities in particular had been moving out to Maui for decades and predictably driving prices through the roof to the point where any resident there, you're either rich or you're leaving. Oahu is not quite as bad because of how much more housing stock is available, but it's not cheap here either. A lot of people end up leaving even Oahu for the mainland, particularly Las Vegas. Now, why on earth people in this state have such a fascination about Las Vegas will never make sense to me. I think it's because they're quite fond of gambling in general. So you got to remember, ethnically speaking, Hawaii is plurality Asian. It's the most diverse state in the union, and gambling is fairly big in Asian, particularly Chinese culture. As a result, the big thing to do here is to go to Vegas. That is a difference right there. People in South Carolina are probably no more or less interested in gambling than the average. People here, it's definitely more, and gambling is not legal in the state of Hawaii. So people here will usually fly to Las Vegas. Madame Chlamydia, thank you very much. Thanks for popping in. Couple other differences. Electric usage. People here are a lot more conscientious about how they use their electricity. This is supply and demand at its finest. It's because the cost of electric power here is about 3 times what it is in South Carolina. You take care, Madame. Thanks for popping in. Couple other ones I would say. Eating out, I would say it works pretty well. Both Hawaii and South Carolina are proud of their food culture, and I would say they both rank among, at bare minimum, the top 10 for the United States. I can make an argument for top 5 for both. The food here is extraordinarily unique, and people, again, very proud of it, be it Hawaiian food, right? Taro, poi, lau lau pork, haupia, be it the fusion from other cultures, sai min, spam musubi, which, right, spam, that is, there are two, I found there are 3 types of people that like spam. You're either military born or military adjacent, you were from Alaska, you were from Hawaii, okay, sorry, 4th one, you were from Guam. Spam is beloved amongst those groups of people. And it's funny. Everybody says, "Oh, Hawaii, it's the state with the most affection for spam," and that's true. But if Guam were a state, Guam would dwarf Hawaii in that regard. Them Chamorro, they love it. But other similarities or differences, financially speaking. There is a more collectivist mindset here. South Carolina is not particularly libertine or individualistic, but there is a slightly more collectivist mindset here in general. Unions are a lot stronger here. In fact, that is probably the most polarizing difference between South Carolina and Hawaii. This is the most unionized state in the country, and South Carolina is the least. So labor unions would be probably the biggest macroeconomic example of a difference between these two states. Trying to think of any others that would be pertinent. You know, prices for everything out here are higher. It's that simple. And that's a function of being in an island in the middle of the ocean, right? You cannot train or truckload things in. It all has to come from container ships. And thanks to the Jones Act, it's going to be expensive. There's nothing you can do about it. That's a great question, though. Who wrote that in? Was that FM? Wonderful question. Thank you. That was an excellent question. Hell, I could have done a whole consultation about that, but no, that's a good thought-provoking question. I could talk for ages about. So if you got any follow-ups on that regard, throw them my way. Interesting. Did not know about the strong union influence. So a little history behind that. First off, the idea of a labor union has always been less popular in the South because the word union is, for Civil War related reasons, already unpopular. You got to remember South Carolina is the state that started that. For any other parts of the country that ever want to consider secession, take it from the South Carolinians. It won't work out well for you. Plus, again, this is dumb, but for unions, in the 1950s, this was still a territory. In 1954, there was a huge political uprising movement, particularly with labor. This labor included dock workers, shipyard workers, and most importantly, plantation workers. Until about the 1960s, when international air travel took off enough to where tourism here became a very large industry, the economy of this state was primarily cash crops: sugar, pineapples, coffee. And you can still find those items, not so much sugar, but pineapples and coffee on the island today, although in reduced quantities compared to, say, 1955. But working on the plantations, predictably, was not fun. And after the Second World War, there was a high demand for labor and a lower supply for labor. A lot of the workers on those plantations had served in the Army or had met people who had served in the Army or the Navy. You also had military bases out there at the time. That combination of factors, plus a general pro-labor stance in the United States from about the New Deal era all the way to the 1970s, resulted in a massive sweeping wave of unionization and a massive voting in of the Democratic Party in what was then the territory of Hawaii and then the state in 1954, and then it became a state in 1959. Before then, I don't know during the territory days how exactly Hawaii was politically, but ever since then, Hawaii has been a very reliable blue state. in some ways to its detriment. I think a lot of the big government projects here have been rife with corruption, and the Democratic Party needs to take a hard look at itself for that. The rail being the biggest one. If we had taken the money spent on the rail and just used it on bike paths across the island of Oahu, we would have saved 90% of that money and gotten a better result. Gotten more cars off the road anyway. So, that's a great question. All right, redeem a hydrate. That's good. That's good. All right, well, if we don't have anything else from chat, I'm gonna probably look to raid in a little while. I have to clean up the apartment and get it ready for my bro. I need to do the laundry. I need to make dinner, and then so this weekend, normal schedule: 5 a.m. tomorrow, 5 a.m. Sunday. Then next week, my bro will be here. Should be pretty good time, and that's gonna be. Should be the normal schedule for the time coming up. We will see what happens regarding modeling. There's some big things in the works. Can't really talk about it in public yet, but I would say if you are on the mainland, first off, November, we'll be on the mainland in the Seattle metro area. So if you are in and around Seattle and you'd like to meet up with me, you might get the opportunity. We'll have another modeling show here early October or early November as well, and right now it's looking like Manila may be happening in 2025. So for those of you in the Philippines, you may have the opportunity to hang out. So let's see who's live right now. Who we got? We got Malik, we got Kildeon, we got Jasu. Yeah, let's raid Malik. I like Malik. All right. Before you go, Lolmets died when Pete Alonso went yard. It's against the Phillies. I don't like either team there. I guess I'm rooting for the Phillies just because. Oh no, you're talking about, yeah, because Pete Alonso. Yeah, I don't even hate the Mets that much. I rest in peace to baseball's most legendary meme. Anywho, we're gonna go ahead and raid Maliki Tho. All right, raid message is gonna be Bull Rush, as always. I'm in the minority. Go Padres. I like the. All right, another peck bounce. Here you go. There you go. Another peck bounce. All right. I don't necessarily. I'm a Nationals fan, so I kind of don't like any of the NL East teams. I like the Padres more than any other team in the NL at this point, so go Padres, I guess. All right, that's going to be it for me today, y'all. So as always, make good decisions. Those good decisions form your actions. Those actions form your habits. Those habits form your values. And those values form an ethos to be the guide star through the rough waters of life. Much love. Take care. Aloha. See you tomorrow morning, 5 a.m. Hawaiian Standard Time, all right? Shoots. All right, YouTube. I'm out. You'll be seeing more of me soon. Got just a few more view hours I need, so y'all keep watching on YouTube. The more you do that, the faster I get super chats unlocked and I can do this. So, cheers.